For millions of people around the world, church is supposed to be a place of hope, a place where broken people go for healing, where desperate families pray for miracles, where believers search for peace during the darkest moments of their lives. But over the years, something strange began happening inside some of the world's biggest churches. The pastors became celebrities, not just famous, rich, very rich, private jets, luxury mansions, millions of dollars in donations. And while struggling families filled church seats praying for financial miracles, some pastors were living lifestyles more luxurious than Hollywood stars. Names like Hinn, Kenneth, Copeland, Osteen, followed by millions of loyal believers around the world. These pastors preached something called the prosperity gospel. The message sounded simple: if you have enough faith, God will bless you with success. If you donate money, God will multiply it back to you. If you believe strongly enough, your sickness can disappear, your finances can improve, your life can completely change. And for desperate people searching for hope, those promises sounded powerful. A struggling mother praying for food, a sick man hoping for healing, a family drowning in debt, all believing that maybe, just maybe, God was about to perform a miracle in their lives. But critics say something darker was happening behind the scenes, because while followers kept giving money to the church, many of these pastors became unbelievably wealthy. Multi-million-dollar homes, expensive suits, luxury cars, private airplanes, all while preaching about faith, blessings, and miracles. And eventually, people started asking questions. Where was all the donation money going? Why were pastors becoming richer and richer? And why were so many desperate people still suffering after giving everything they had? But before we go deeper, if you enjoy documentary-style investigations about faith, power, and hidden truths, make sure to subscribe, because the next part becomes even darker. One of the biggest names in televangelism was about to face serious criticism, after millions believed he could perform miracles with the power of God. And his name was Hinn. For years, one man became the face of miracle healing across the world. His name was Hinn. Massive stadiums filled with thousands of people desperate for hope. The sick arrived in wheelchairs. Parents carried disabled children in their arms. Cancer patients traveled across countries believing this man could heal them through the power of God. The atmosphere felt emotional, almost supernatural. Music echoed through giant arenas. People cried. Some collapsed to the floor, others screamed that they had been healed. And at the center of it all stood Hinn, wearing expensive suits, speaking dramatically, claiming miracles were happening live in front of thousands of people. To millions of believers, he wasn't just a pastor. He was seen almost like a man chosen directly by God. People donated huge amounts of money to his ministry, believing they were supporting God's work. And as Hinn's popularity exploded, so did his wealth. Reports began surfacing about luxury hotels, expensive lifestyles, and private jets funded by ministry donations. But for years, most followers ignored the criticism, because desperate people want hope more than anything else. And when someone promises healing, people will believe almost anything. But eventually, disturbing questions started appearing. Critics began asking, where was the medical proof behind these miracle healings? Why were cameras always focused on emotional moments, but never on long-term evidence? Some former followers claimed they traveled to healing crusades believing their diseases would disappear, only to return home heartbroken when nothing changed. Others accused the ministry of emotionally manipulating vulnerable people searching for miracles. And then, major news organizations began investigating televangelists and prosperity preachers, luxury lifestyles.
Facing felony charges in one case, arrested and escorted out in handcuffs for another case. 12 News' Hannah Hilliard says the minister is accused of sharing photos of someone without their consent.
Gabriel Mills, once a pastor at Journey Church in Kenosha, facing new criminal charges tonight.
We had another person come forward on October 5th that indicated that they believed they were also a victim.
Investigators first arrested Mills September 30th. A criminal complaint says a couple from the church was at Mills' home, where he offered to help download an audiobook to one of their phones. But instead, it says he sent himself private photos of the wife she had taken of herself and had only ever sent to her husband.
We were contacted by the initial complainant, who informed us that there may be some intimate photos that were transferred from one phone to Mr. Mills'
Nation
phone.
money, failed healing claims. Suddenly, the media spotlight became impossible to ignore. Even more shocking, years later, Benny Hinn himself publicly distanced himself from parts of the prosperity gospel, saying some teachings had gone too far. But by then, millions of dollars had already flowed through the world of televangelism. And Benny Hinn was only the beginning, because another pastor was about to become one of the most controversial religious figures in America, a man criticized for owning multiple private jets while preaching about faith and prosperity. And his name was Kenneth Copeland. The empire of mega churches as criticism against prosperity preachers continued growing. Another name kept appearing again and again in conversations about wealth, luxury, and religion. Kenneth Copeland.
It is over. And the United States of America is healed and well again.
A televangelist known not only for preaching prosperity, but for living a lifestyle most ordinary church followers could never imagine. Private jets, massive properties, luxury living, and millions of dollars connected to his ministry empire. For supporters, Kenneth Copeland was simply a man blessed by God, but for critics, he became one of the biggest symbols of what they believed was wrong with modern televangelism. One interview in particular shocked the internet. When questioned about why he used private jets instead of flying commercially, Copeland defended himself by suggesting commercial flights were filled with negativity and demons. The clip spread across social media almost instantly. For many people watching, it no longer looked like humble Christianity. It looked like celebrity culture hiding behind religion. And yet, despite the backlash, millions of loyal followers continued supporting ministries like his. Why? Because prosperity preaching is powerful. It tells struggling people exactly what they want to hear, that their breakthrough is close, that financial blessings are coming, that if they keep believing, keep donating, and keep trusting, God will eventually reward them. And for people going through pain, that message can feel impossible to resist. But Kenneth Copeland wasn't alone. Another pastor was building one of the largest church empires in America, Joel Osteen. Unlike the aggressive miracle healing style of Benny Hinn, Joel Osteen presented himself differently,
You've been
smiling.
in the weight room so long. When people tell you, I don't know, I don't think you're pregnant, it would have happened by now, you still think you're going to meet the right person? Still think you're going to get the promotion?
Positive,
Still think
motivational. His sermons sounded less like traditional church preaching and more like inspirational speeches about success, confidence, and happiness. Millions loved him for it. His church, Lakewood Church, became one of the biggest churches in America. His books sold worldwide. His sermons reached millions online, and his influence exploded across television and social media. But critics again raised difficult questions. How does a pastor become so wealthy? Why were churches operating almost like corporations? Why were books, merchandise, donations, and massive productions becoming central parts of modern ministries? Then came one of Joel Osteen's biggest controversies, Hurricane Harvey. As devastating floods hit Houston, critics online accused Lakewood Church of not opening its doors quickly enough for flood victims. The backlash became massive. News channels covered the story. Social media exploded with anger. Supporters defended him. Critics attacked him. And suddenly, the conversation around mega churches became bigger than ever before. People were no longer just questioning individual pastors. They were questioning the entire system. Former church members started speaking publicly. Some claimed they gave huge portions of their income believing God would multiply it back. Others said they were taught that sickness and poverty were connected to weak faith. Some described feeling emotionally manipulated. Others said they left completely broken after years of believing miracles were coming. And perhaps the most disturbing part of all, many followers truly believed they were doing the right thing, because when someone is desperate, they will hold on to hope with everything they have. A sick parent praying for healing, a struggling father trying to save his family financially, a depressed person searching for meaning. That vulnerability can make people trust almost anyone who promises certainty. And maybe that's why prosperity preaching became so powerful. Not because people were foolish, but because people were hurting. And hurting people are often willing to believe promises that healthy people would question. Now, to be fair, not every large church is corrupt. Not every pastor is a fraud. And not every preacher who talks about blessings is trying to manipulate people. There are millions of sincere Christians around the world helping the poor, feeding families, supporting communities, and genuinely trying to live according to their faith. But the rise of mega churches and celebrity pastors has created serious questions that many people are now afraid to ignore. Has faith become commercialized? Are churches slowly turning into businesses? And where is the line between spiritual leadership and exploitation? Because at the center of all of this are ordinary people, people searching for hope, searching for healing, searching for God. And maybe the real tragedy isn't just wealthy pastors, but the possibility that desperate people may be getting emotionally manipulated in the process. Faith was meant to help people through darkness, not profit from their pain. And maybe the most dangerous thing about false hope is that desperate people often cannot see it until it's too late. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think modern megachurches are helping people or exploiting faith for money? And do you believe prosperity preaching is biblical, or has religion become a business? Comment your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this documentary-style investigation, subscribe to the channel, because the next video will uncover another dark and controversial topic most people are afraid to talk about.